So our focus is two things. We're focused on the homeless in cities, and we're focused on inmates that are coming out of prisons. And this whole transition that people are looking at. And what's happening is they are going straight from prison out into the cities, and they're winding up homeless. A lot of them are winding up homeless. So what we have is we've got people in the cities who are, corporations and businesses and small businesses who are trying to get their, businesses going, and who are sweeping off their front porch and then come the next day to find, a homeless person like passed out, smoking weed or whatever. And then they leave their trash on the small business's front porch, and then you got to call the cops and blah, blah, blah. And so I just want to present some thoughts that I've had, and I would really love to hear your thoughts on it because, it definitely has a double edge to it. It's definitely a double-edged sword. So let's look at this. So we've got the homeless in cities and we've got inmates in prisons. And so, they serve their time, they get out, and then what? They go to the cities. Why? Because that's where they can find maybe, somebody who'll give them $20 if they stand in the middle of a road with a sign, "I'm homeless." So what I am proposing after hearing the discussion that Prince William had with Stephen Bartlett and his team at the Diary of a CEO, and then also simultaneously seeing President Jokowi touring the world on the subject of Gaza and coming to the USA when Stephen Bartlett was meeting with Prince William's, and my work in Indonesia with peacock chair makers and the historical background of the iconic peacock chair and what Home Vestures is doing as a luxury brand with creating bespoke heirloom peacock chairs and working directly with peacock chair makers in the rattan industry. And so here is my idea, Vicki Stecker's idea for this. Do we want to call it an issue? It feels like one, so let's talk about it. So this is my idea for the cities with all the homeless and the prisons and all the inmates coming out and going. So what I'm proposing is that truckloads of raw material are brought in to the prisons. And the home vestures makers, I think I'm going to use this other one. I'm using like a purple background so that you can see where Home Vestures is. Home Vestures presence would be in all of this. So Home Vestures, which is me, I'm the founder, has a vision for this prison homeless project. And since the peacock chair originated in a prison in the Philippines, Southeast Asia and Asia, by a woman who allegedly killed her husband, it groups, it links. There's a link here. Okay, so Home Vestures goes in with our makers, and we teach the inmates the art and skill of peacock chair making. And the great thing about this is that it does not require a lot of tools. This is a handmade item where the raw material is bent, woven, and this is an opportunity for inmates to level up or sharpen the craft because they have time. And so home vestures would go in and help with, the teaching with our makers, with the inmates, whether through videos or however it would be done. I know that the industries and the prisons are very particular about who they allow on projects like this. So, and I'm familiar with that setting, and I can see that happening. Of course, it would take Indonesia, who controls 90% of the Rattan in the world, to really see the vision. So Indonesia is a big player in this, and I'm sure Prince William and Stephen Bartlett could help get his attention on this project so that it can have it can do what we want it to do. All right. So in my thinking, and this is based on my experience in my life, my personal life, I have 7 children. I'm a camping and survival expert, so I've been on many campouts. I've led campouts. I've directed campouts. So I'm very familiar with wilderness settings. At the same time, I'm a Gucci girl, and that was my main hustle when I was working, when I was young. I'm a homemaker, turned entrepreneur. And so I was in Indonesia for 2.5 years by myself. I lived in Las Vegas growing up, was born in Hawaii. I have this story that supports this idea and this next part of this idea, which is this, that I'm suggesting that the homeless people or the government and business landowners designate an area for the homeless to go to. It's an area where they can cultivate the land. All right, so we're looking at having an area that's outside of the city where the homeless can go. And I think it kind of serves as kind of this halfway point as well. So in this area is where homeless and even outcoming inmates can then just kind of take up lodge and look at nature, not necessarily have these big connections to the world like Google, so that they're not feeling knocked down when they go in the city and everybody looks up their name and finds out they were formerly incarcerated, and then their chance goes to 0. So in this area is where they get to explore new options. Not every option, but some options that are very basic and primitive, like skills of building house and cultivating the land, growing crops, and learning how to not only grow and produce for yourself or for themselves, but also for others. Now, from that, they can set up road stands or whatever and sell their produce, things like that. But and it could just be that. But in the prison, they're not able to do that. But what they are able to do is make a peacock chair, which then these guys out here from the homeless from the cities, the homeless in the cities, and the prison can come together in a village or villages and create an attraction. So the attraction that I'm thinking about is a peacock chair museum. So I've always wanted to do a peacock chair museum, and I have one. I have a building already in Indonesia, and I have a collection of my own, the largest collection of peacock chairs in the world, in the Home Vestures showroom in Cirebon, Indonesia. So the idea then is to take these peacock chairs that the inmates are making, where Home Vestures has taught them the skill, but now they're really honing it. And through this village of homeless and out or inmates that are moving out, that are being released, can come in and go, wow, we have a place to exhibit, or we have a place to work, or we have a business idea to support this. But before we go from straight to here, well, it has to be reviewed. So what I'm suggesting is another kind of like a sub-business called the Maker's Lounge. Okay, so what the Maker's Lounge allows is for villages like this, where homeless people are coming and past incarcerated people are going. And in this village, they're able to continue to sharpen their skills. So we've got volunteers from the city coming out, teaching skills, things like that. And then the items that they're making can be discussed from this area, can be discussed in the Maker's Lounge. These items that the prisoners are making, as it relates to the Peacock Chair Museum, can be discussed here. So these people become the juror of the Peacock Chair Museum, the juror of the Maker's Lounge. It's where they get to show what they're doing, whether they've built a really cool house, whether they've been able to cultivate something, whether, they've made a new discovery or find. So these people here that are mainly, that consist of homeless and formerly incarcerated prisoners, can create an attraction, and they can jury it so that it is run by a standard. So Home Vestures makers would be part of guiding their decisions and stuff like that for the Peacock Chair Museum, and also guiding, the framework of the Maker's Lounge. But not necessarily, this is just the vision that came to me about how to get the homeless in a place where they could sort out and cultivate basic skills like growing food, producing food, building skills, shelter skills, just survival skills that aren't in the city, and that we as businesses support this so that they then can create an attraction where it's juried, and there's some sort of overseer who is holding the standard and is helping them to create a standard so that they become recognized and notable in the world and become contributors to societies and to creating and blazing new settlements and new innovation.